Oh, I forgot to change the logo though. This is not a Homestead Update Live. This is a special live. What we're going to talk about tonight, guys. Before we get started, before I get going, let's give me a 5x5 in the chat if you can hear me, so that I know my sound's good. And while we're doing that, I'm going to say hi to everybody that's in the chat. We got Can Squatch. We got my lovely bride Yoda is in the house, and Terminator. If you're lurking in chat, go ahead and jump in there. Remember that if you're on YouTube, go into the live chat, get out of top chat, go into live chat. And if you are on Rumble or X, because we are live on X now, we went ahead and got the subscription to X so we could do lives. So we are on all three channels right now. If something happens on YouTube and they kick us off like they did Life Done Free, we've got the ability to still bring you stuff. So go over there and follow us on X if you're not over there already. Let's see. We got Corn Pops in the house. We got Randy Pitts. We got Gregory Kissel, Dusty Country Road. How y'all doing tonight? Okay. First, a little background about why I'm doing this. So our community has been having regular meetings. We try to do once a month. We get together and we commune and do something like that. Well, we sat down and we had a conversation as a community of what we could do as a whole to better prepare the community in case of an emergency, in case of SHTF, in case of economic collapse, whatever, tornadoes, national disaster, you name it, we want to be prepared for it. And so we took a vote and we voted on what was people's biggest concerns. And we came up with a list of 5 or 6 things that people were concerned about. And communications happened to be at the top of the list. Well, we had a meeting 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, maybe, and we discussed community communications. And since myself and Hacks were the only two in the community that have our ham ticket, uh, we were tasked with giving this class. Well, the class we came up with was building a communications plan, and that's what I'm going to give you tonight. Now, what this talk is not going to be is about equipment. We're not going to talk about specific ham radios. I'm not going to suggest what you should get or what you shouldn't get. If you want to know that from a standpoint of personal preparedness, there are thousands of videos out there on YouTube and Rumble and every place else by people that are much more knowledgeable on the subject than I am. And I suggest you go find people like that. Um, Ham radio operators tend to be a very friendly group, and they're more than willing to share their expertise with people. And so if you want to do that, go out and find this. This is going to be a more high level thing dealing with the community and setting up a community wide plan. HG's in the house. He does not want to talk about people. Okay, before we get started into the presentation itself, there are 10 or 11 sections in this presentation. I'm going to stop after every presentation and see if there's any questions, and I'll answer them the best I can. If you have a question, I cannot see it if it's on Rumble or if it's on X. So if you want to ask a question, you're going to have to go over to YouTube and ask. Put it in capital letters, if you would, please. That way it'll stick out and I can see it whenever I'm scrolling back through the comments. Okay, so let's get started. Let's see, how did I do this? Okay, here we go. So the title of this presentation is Next Level SHTF Comms, Building a Community Communications Plan. All right. So the purpose of this presentation is to get the idea across that establishing a community emergency communications plan for a SHTF scenario is crucial for ensuring reliable information flow, coordination, and safety. And then the key subjects. Bear with me for a second too, guys. I mean, I'm popping back and forth. Let's see. I'm popping back and forth between the StreamYard in the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, the first section on this is assessment of communication needs. So the two things we're going to look at are community size and geographic layout. So the community size, this is understanding how many people are in your community and how far, where their locations are. Okay, for as an example, our community spans 2 counties, and from end to end is probably 45 miles long. So we're looking at a huge footprint for our community size. The geographic layout, it considers distance, terrain, and any natural barriers that could affect communications. Now, the reason why this is important is because 2-meter and GMRS are line of sight specific. So if you've got things that are in between the two radios, it can cause problems. You're not able to talk to each other. As an example, Yoda says 5 counties for our geographic size, or everybody's locations. So as an example, at our house, we live in a valley, and we can't get direct communication out several different ways because the hills are too tall. So we have to think about how to overcome that size. Let's see. Blue Butterfly popped in. Glad to see you. HG's in the house. I saw somebody else pop in. Anyway, so that's what we need to concern ourselves about: community size and geographical layout, because that is going to dictate everything else that we do. The next one is identifying communication methods. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at is primary systems. So primary systems are the means of communications that you use on a daily basis, in times when nothing is wrong. So we're talking about phones and SMS. That's texting, mesh network devices like GoTenna, and other things can be used whenever cell service is spotty but functional. All right. Texting as an example, texting in case of an emergency and the phone lines are overwhelmed, you're more apt to be able to get an SMS text out than a phone message out. So just remember that. Second one, secondary systems. Okay, secondary systems are ones that can be used in good times as an alternative to your primary systems, also used in times of emergency whenever the primary systems are out. So these can include two-way radios, which are ham radios, GMRS or FRS radios, which, as if you didn't know, a ham radio, you have to have an FCC license to use it. GMRS and FRS, you do not have to have a license, but you have to have a certificate. So you basically have to pay to be able to use the frequencies. All right. Backup systems. These are systems that are contingency plans for whenever your primary and secondary systems go out, like written messages, runners, people physically carrying the messages, or even signal flares and whistles in worst case scenarios. Just something so you can communicate. A lot of the backup systems come straight from the survival basics, where you don't have access to modern ways to communicate. So that's the three communication methods we're looking at: primary systems, secondary systems, and our backup systems. Does anyone have any questions so far? Blue Butterfly, those heard that don't assimilate, not following near their Blue Butterfly. Maybe I'm coming in on the back end of a conversation. All right, so the next one. Choose and train key operators. So members of your community are going to be assigned specific roles. And these individuals are communication leads or operators, such as ham radio operators, or it could be just somebody that uses a two-way radio on a regular basis. I mean, people use them around here on their homesteads on a regular basis. People use them at work. So it could be just somebody that knows how to use them. All right. The next thing is training. We want to ensure that multiple people are trained on how to use all the communication systems. That even means that non-ham certified operators should learn how to use ham radio. They should be able to use it. And here's my thought on that. If you would never send somebody into combat or into a fire or into a law enforcement situation unless they knew how to use the tools they had on hand. So we need to be training prior to something happening. That means everybody, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat. Everybody gets trained on how to use it. Now, you have to take special considerations for people that don't have their ham ticket to be able to use the ham radio, but it can be done. Ultimately, we'd like everybody prior to some sort of event happening to be as certified and technically proficient as possible. And then the last one in this is protocols. And this is what I was just talking about. Everybody needs to learn proper radio etiquette, frequency usage, and emergency codes. So key operators, we're assigning roles, we're training them, and then we're looking at protocols on how to use the equipment. Next, I gotta admit, guys, I'm kind of impressed with you because I was fully expecting more questions going into this. HG says yes, cross training, and you don't want your first use to be under stress. Practice under stress, and then use when needed is easier. Yes, absolutely. That's in every aspect of survival and emergency preparedness. That's true. Okay, the next portion, the next thing we're going to talk about, establishing channels and frequencies. First, we're going to look at predetermined frequencies. For ham radios, this is assigning specific frequencies for various purposes, emergency journal, and updates. As an example, we have a common configuration for everybody's Bofang radios, and we're going to expand that into the other models of radios too. Right now, most people have Bofangs. So we have a specific configuration that's got all the local 2-meter repeaters on them, so that everybody knows if I go to channel 25, they know that they need to go to a specific channel, and they know exactly where that repeater is. We've also got channel 3 is the 2-meter emergency call channel. So if you say go to channel 3, everybody can go to channel 3, and it's just an open channel that everybody that can reach the radios can talk to on. So we're making it so that everybody's got the same configuration and they understand what the frequencies and what their purpose is for. We've also got the AMRON national net channel on there. I think that's channel 5 on. No, I'm sorry, that's channel 3. Channel 1 is the emergency channel. But anyway, and the AMRON channel is a American Radio Operators Network. It's a private organization that has a national network of operators, and they do weekly and monthly nets. So they communicate via 2-meter and high frequency. So it's very interesting. You ought to go check it out after we're done here. The next thing is we create a channel hierarchy, defining primary, secondary, and emergency only channels, especially for GMRS and FRS radios. Okay, now the reason why it says especially for GMRS and FRS is because those are going to be the most readily used by the most amount of people, because they don't take any certification, as I said, and they're super simple to use. I am in the process of right now of reconfiguring our radio configuration so that all the GMRS channels fall in line on the 2-meter radios with the dedicated GMRS radios like your Midlands and things like that. So So you need to have a hierarchy, and we need to know where to go when. And so we've got 2 repeaters that we found that most of the community can get to. So we know if something happens, you want to go to this channel first, and if you're not hearing anything on that tune, you want to go to this channel. Now we're in the nascent stages of this. We have only done 1 radio check since we had that meeting, and we did it on a night that it was raining and overcast, and it did not go as well as we would have liked, but we still learned a lot from it. All right. But doing this stuff and working on this hierarchy will give you a better base to start with in case of an emergency. And then encryption and codes. Use simple codes or encryption methods to secure sensitive communications when necessary. First off, let me say, it is illegal to encrypt ham radio messages. You just don't want to do it. But you can use one-time pads if you're sending handwritten messages on GMRS radios. You could come up with a community specific code, and you could do it on ham radio too, but you come up with a community specific code. You know, the United States Marine Corps used Navajo code talkers during World War II, and they did not encrypt anything. They transmitted it plain speak across the airwaves. But what they did was they used the Navajo language, which was not written down to send special messages, sensitive messages, and the Japanese never did crack that code. And they used the word turtle to mean tank and things like that. You could do that for encrypting and codes on your radio messages, but you also want to learn how to use one-time pads. Maybe I'm not the best at one-time pads, but maybe I'll brush up on it, and we'll do a video on that someday. Yeah, actually, yeah, I misspoke when I said encryption. You can use codes, you can't encrypt. Okay, yeah, she's absolutely correct. Okay, any questions so far? I think we're going through this at a pretty good clip. This is going to be a nice easy live here. Okay, the next one. Regularly test and maintain the system. Yes, I'm going to just start with that. Yes, you want to regularly test and maintain it. You want to do drills and exercises, conduct regular communications drill to ensure everyone is familiar with the plan. This is our Monday check-in nights. That's one of the reasons why we do this, to get everybody so they can communicate and do that. The other one is equipment maintenance. Routinely check batteries, antennas, and backup systems to ensure that they're in working order. So many people in the preparedness community buy radios. They don't have their ham license, and then they pack them away in an ammo can or a Faraday box or something like that, and they never look at them. And then they fully expect to be able to pull them out of the box and start using them. Batteries are going to be dead, and they're not going to know what to do. They're going to be misconfigured because they never took them out and they never got them all configured on the same frequencies and the same settings. So the drills can be anything from a simple radio check every week to telling everybody, okay, phones aren't working. They just went down. We need everybody to check in on their radio, and just doing it at some random time. And sure, you're not going to get everybody involved because you get so many people involved, different schedules. But by doing this, what happens is if an SHTF event happens, everybody knows what to do and they're familiar with it. As a matter of fact, part of our communication plan and our emergency preparedness plan is within 24 hours of a major event, everybody that can make it makes it to a central location in our community, and we disseminate information and we bring it back to our homesteads. HG, I got to comment on this one. This is great. A net could be practiced like a Zoom call with no radios licenses needed. Just get on the gist for procedures. Yes. As a matter of fact, our community has a weekly Zoom meeting where they discuss the going on in the community, and they discuss plans, just exactly like what HG said. Let's see here. Okay, we're in between things, so I'm going to answer some questions. Ken Squatch says, got a Bofang, but not sure what frequency to be on. Well, you need to talk to whoever's in your community, and you need to figure out where you can talk. The thing about Bofangs is, like I said, they're line of sight, so you're going to be using repeaters for the most part to talk long distances. In fact, there is a repeater on top of the water tower in Edgerton, Kansas, that has a footprint of about 250 miles across. And it was 189 miles from where we used to live in Missouri to the furthest person in our community. And we could talk on a regular basis. I mean, no problems whatsoever. That's how big it was. So you need to get out there and you need to find out with your community who's got radios and who's going to be communicating. And then you need to find the local repeaters. And you can go to repeater.com and look up your area, and they will give you all the public repeaters. Okay, HG was talking about having a Zoom call, turn off the cameras, turn on all the mics, and do actual. Oh, okay, you know that's actually a good idea. Just for practicing procedures, right? Just for getting used to the radio etiquette and radio procedures, and that's a fantastic idea. Consider that one stolen there, HG. I'm gonna incorporate that into the plan. See, this is why I like these lives and the chats, because we got so many people in there with good ideas that every time I come on, I learn something from somebody. All right, the next one is coordinate with local authorities. Okay, I can hear everybody. I can hear people right now. Why do I want to be talking to the local authorities? Well, here's why. Number one, cross communication. You want to build relationships with local ham radio clubs, emergency responders, and authorities for broader situational awareness and coordination. The other one is monitoring channels. Set radios to scan local emergency frequencies to stay informed of broader regional issues. Okay, cross communications. So every state or every county in the country, as far as I know, has what's called a community emergency, a CERT team, Community Emergency Response Team. And what that is, it's a group of people, mostly volunteers, that get trained up and learn how to manage emergencies. Could be a natural disaster, could be a fire, could be whatever. And basically what they do is they coordinate first responders, and they do all this stuff. The other one, knowing the emergency responders and knowing how to talk to them in emergencies is great, because you may need help that you can't get over the phone or anything like that. You may be able to talk directly to first responders, especially if you live in a rural community. The second part of this, the monitoring channel, set radios to scan local emergency frequencies to stay informed of broader regional issues. Okay, now here's a wrinkle in this one. So a vast majority of the municipalities in the country have gone from analog to digital, meaning that they've got a digital equipment versus just a over the airwave type of equipment. That makes it harder for the average person to listen to, like, the police channels and the fire channels and all that, unless you've got a special scanner. They're not inexpensive, but they're not exorbitant. You know, you can afford one if you've got a little bit of money, and it's well worth getting. So take that as you want, but you do want to find out what the local emergency channels are, because even in the place we lived in, Missouri, a couple of the backup channels for the fire and the police in the town we lived in were actually analog. Yeah, they're encrypted too now. That's the other wrinkle. Not all places. Some places you can still get it, but a lot of places are going to encrypted. Let's see here. Let's see what HG's got to say. Be careful. Really need to know what frequencies you can or cannot legally transmit on. The Baofengs are wide open, and the vast majority are illegal for some reason. Well, okay, let's talk about that one for just a second. Okay, the reason why they want you to have a ham license is so that you understand safety precautions of antennas and stuff, because you can literally burn yourself by touching an antenna if you don't have it set up right, and it's you're pushing too much power. The second part of that is
Count Trumpula after this question. Go up to
okay.
Trumpula.
Get the dogs out. Sorry, somebody just busted in. Get out, dog. Get out. So as I was saying, the other part of it is they want you to know the frequencies that you can legally talk on, because what happens is if you're pushing out too much wattage, you can bleed over onto emergency channels, get onto FAA frequencies and police frequencies and things like that. So that's the reason why they don't want non-ham certified people just running rampant across the airwaves. Okay, I was told that Count Trumpula. Okay. Will the radios work under extreme solar storms? It depends. That is a situational question. If we get hit by a Carrington event, radio propagation is going to be screwed for the duration of the event. We get hit by solar storms all the time. You know, they will mess up radio transmissions. In fact, we just had one this summer that was strong enough it was interfering with AM and FM radio, the terrestrial radio. So yes, the solar storms will affect your radios. This is one of the reasons why we want to train on them. We want to train and do that training we were talking about under extreme circumstances. We want to be talking to each other whenever there's a huge storm and a lot of lightning in the air. We want to be doing this because we want to know how our radios are going to behave in these circumstances, and we want to know how to get around them. Okay, here's an example of a radio spectrum. This is from HG. Here's an example of a radio spectrum separated and allocated to different services. There's really very few open frequencies, and they're very for low powered devices. Yes, absolutely. Yes, and the storms will affect different bands differently. That's why you get a license so you can learn now and practice. Absolutely. Hey, Tiger. Okay, let's go on to the next section. Boom. Well, it helps if I actually change the slide. There we go. Okay, creating a communication schedule. Check-ins. Establish regular check-in times for all participants to confirm their status, and quiet times. Maintain radio silence unless needed to conserve battery life and avoid unnecessary transmissions. Okay, now what we're talking about here is in the event of an emergency. You want times for people. You want check-in times so people can contact the central location and say, "Hey, we are here. We are alive." And then the quiet times, you want to maintain radio silence to conserve batteries, because chances are you may be running off grid. It does not take that much energy to run a radio. You can do it off a single solar panel and a car battery very easily. In fact, they have what's called radios in the park. They get online. They take their radios out to parks and set them up, and they transmit, and they see who they can talk to using off-grid methods, batteries and such. So, and the other thing with the quiet times is we don't want to be transmitting and maybe walking all over a signal for somebody that is in trouble and needs help. All right. And then, you know, the prepper in me goes to this too. You don't want to give away your location. You don't want to be talking about unnecessary stuff. You don't want to be talking about day-to-day activities and giving information away to anybody that may stumble across your frequencies. So that's why we want quiet times. Next one. Develop information flow guidelines. Okay. First thing, message priority. You want to rank the messages in order of importance. Life-threatening emergencies are of course going to be top priority. Situational updates are going to be a little bit less important, but they're important because we want to know when things change. And then the routine check-ins. The other one is structured messages. We want to encourage concise, clear messages to avoid clogging communication channels during critical times. Now, the military does not have a lot of ad lib going on when they do radio. They've got formats for each one of their different types of messages, and I've been out of the military so long. I'm not even going to pretend that I know what they all are. The one I do know about is a 9-line. I still remember that from when I was in, and that's a medical evac. You give these the information. Amron actually has, and you can go out and you get this for free. Amron actually has message templates. So when you're receiving a message, the operator, if they're talking to somebody that's not in the network, the operator can take out the sheet of paper and ask the questions on the paper and fill it in and get the exact information that they need. Yes, HG gave you the link for the ARRL American. What is it? What is that? HG something amateur radio something league, something like that. But yeah, this so there's all kinds of stuff out there, and I'll tell you what, if you go and start creating a communications plan for your community or your MAG, American Radio Relay League, that's it. If you go out and you start doing this stuff, man, go to links like what HG posted. Go to Amron and get their message format. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's no sense in going to all this effort. There's people out there that have done this multiple times and they've got it set up perfectly and it works great. So go out and take from other people and use what you can use for your own situation. Next one. This is a big one. This one kind of overlaps other parts of the community plan. Consider alternative power sources. Now we're not always going to be guaranteed that the electrical grid is going to be up and running. In fact, there's a pretty good chance that if things go south on the world stage, that America is going to be suffering from lack of a working grid. All right, so we want to look at alternative power sources. Biggest one, solar power. You want to equip radios and communication equipment with solar chargers or hand crank generators to maintain power in extended grid down situations. And then battery management. Stockpile extra batteries and rotate usage to keep communication systems operational. Now, batteries can be anything when it comes to radios. You got everything from the car battery that can run your desktop 2-meter or high frequency rig, or you've got the batteries on your Bofang. I've got multiple batteries for my Bofangs. I got backups because they do go bad, and you want to have some on hand to make sure you've got functional ones. And this is okay, I'm going to be completely honest here. This is a physician heal thyself. I need to get into my Bofang stash. I need to get the batteries out, and I need to stick them on chargers and just charge them up and make sure they're all still functional. So yeah. Oh, look at that. Yoda learned about what skip meant. There's a lot of side talk going on here, and I apologize if I'm missing anything. And the other one, the solar power. As I said, this crosses into other areas of the community preparedness. One of the things that our community is trying to do is to get everybody on some sort of solar power. Now, here at Grumpy Acres, we've got solar panels, but they're up in storage. We don't have enough to get the large solar array up, but we've got a small solar generator that will run the radios. In fact, that one's powerful enough it'll run a refrigerator. And then we've got small solar panels. We've got one that I'm going to hook up for the pump for the well. I've got solar lights in one of the animal buildings. So the solar power is something that everybody should learn about, because it goes across all these different disciplines that we talk about. Let's see here. Brian asked the question, what if I steal all your power? Oh, hang on a second, guys. Well, spam. Okay. Brian says, what if my steal all your power? Saw mouse dancing on the sonic pest device. Might steal the power for their disco. Yes, they do. They do, Brian. Goofball. So these are things to consider. Let's see here. Randy asked the question, is there a way to get help with programming the Bofang radios? I have 3 of them right now with different setups for range. I would suggest, number one, downloading the software Chirp. And it works on Windows, and it will allow you to do bulk configuration. This goes back to, this is how we manage our unified configuration things. And just do that and set up one radio like you want it set up, and then just configure all the other radios with the same configuration. It literally, once you get it set up and configured, it literally takes you about 30 seconds to configure a radio. And like I said, get on Repeater Book and look up the local repeaters and then program them. You can program the configuration in Chirp for the Bofang, so you don't have to go through all the buttons to configure everything, and it just makes it so much easier. The next one. This is the one that I went too far. This is the one that all the preppers like. Incorporate information security. Number one, trustworthy sources. Ensure that only trusted members can access and use certain communication channels to avoid disinformation or sabotage. And message verification. Establish codes or phrases to verify that a person on the other side is who they claim to be. Trustworthy sources. One of the biggest problems that you have when talking, especially on, 2 meter is probably what you're going to be using the most in a SHTF situation. The problem is anybody with a radio can listen in on your conversation if they find your channel. If you're using a publicly advertised repeater, everybody and their brother knows where that is, and they can get on there and they can monitor communications on it. One of the things that our community is talking about doing is getting a couple of repeaters and putting them up, but not making them public, using them for private use only. So only people in our community know what the frequencies are for those repeaters. And what that does is somebody will have to go through the effort, which 90% of the people, 99% of the people in the country will not be able to do this because they won't have the wherewithal or knowledge. Somebody will have to actually go find those frequencies in order to listen in on it. All right. And then the message, the established codes and phrases to verify the person on the other end. This is it's called spoofing. You're spoofing the other end on who you are. So if you come up with a catchphrase, just some message that you can say to each other to let you know, you throw out a phrase and they have to respond with something, just so that you know that they are who they say they are. And it can be something very, very innocuous. Will you be covering mesh networks? I've been thinking about this. I am new to mesh networks. I understand how they work, and I understand the hardware behind them, but I am by no means an expert at them. But here's the thing. I know a guy, and I've been meaning to talk to him, and I was thinking about it. In fact, he is building a what's going to be a commercially available mesh network in a box for first responders and like backcountry first responders where you can't get cell signal. So yes, we will be talking about it. I don't know when that's going to be though, because I still got to get hold of him, and Christmas is coming up. It may be January before we get to that part of the conversation. Okay, I'm gonna jump in on this comment right here. Randy says his communication is very close-mouthed and very privacy-oriented. They don't want to do anything together. They are very set in their ways. This can be a problem. This can be a problem, especially if you're trying to set up a community emergency communication plan. I would have conversation. I would sit these people down and talk to them. If they're so closed up that they won't talk about anything and they're only worried about their own personal privacy, then in times of an emergency, then they're going to be on their own and they're going to cut people off. This goes to practicing. Community is not something that's just going to gel overnight. The whole idea of a mag group is that you get to know each other and you work together and you develop plans. The whole thing about our community is that the reason why we have these meetings and we get together and we talk to each other and we have potlucks and we have Festivus for the rest of us is so that we get to know each other and that we can discuss these things and we become more comfortable with each other and basically become trustworthy sources. Exactly. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. Channel hopping, burst transmission, challenge calls, duress call signs. Absolutely. Those are all part of incorporating information security. And one of the things, if your community decides to use the 2 meter as the basis of its community emergency plan, having all these repeaters numbered, all you have to do, and Charles has been on the radio nets at times. Whenever we used to do them back before we moved out here, we used to do them on a regular basis. You go, okay, I'm going to channel 5. Everybody switches to channel 5. You don't say the frequency. You just say what channel 5 is, and you start talking. And then if somebody interrupts your conversation, okay, go to channel 8, and you go to channel 8, and you're talking there. That's channel hopping. Channel hopping. Burst transmissions. What he's talking about is there's devices that you can put plain text into it, and it will condense it, and you basically hold it up to the radio. Now, I'm going to be honest. Things may have changed since I use these, because when I was in the Marine Corps, this is what we had. Right? You literally held it up to the handset on the radio, and you push this button, and it would transmit it. And then there was a device on the other end that would pick up the transmission, slow the message down, and type it out in plain text. And what that does is it minimizes your on-air time. So anybody that's trying to triangulate your position has a very small window to do it in. Let's see here. HG says there are many preparedness folks in ham and vice versa. However, speaking ham only, it's supposed to be a general community orientated and educational. It is chartered as a community radio service. Absolutely. That's one of the things I like about the ham radio community. Well, first off, there's a bunch of crotchety old men in it, and on a lot of the nets in Kansas City, at 58, I'm one of the youngest ones on the net. So there's another reason why I encourage young people to get their ham license, because we need people in it learning how to do it and passing it on. Let's see here. No, actually, I haven't been anti. So Yoda is asking, for those of us learning, what's the difference between 2 meter and 10 meter, which will go long distance. So 2 meter is line of sight, and it's literally dependent on line of sight. Yoda's father is an old-time ham radio operator from the 60s. He's been in it that long. He was telling me that he was living in Los Angeles. They lived down near the beach when he was younger, as a kid. He could hit a repeater that was on top of one of the mountains east of Los Angeles, and it would send that message all the way to Hawaii if he was transmitting on 5 watts, which is not a lot of power. So it literally is dependent on how far you have line of sight with 2 meter. The higher frequencies, 10, 6, 40, all these higher frequencies, what these do is these go up, they skip off the ionosphere and come back down. So you can literally, with a proper propagation, you can literally talk around the world. When my high frequency was up, I was talking to people from outside Kansas City. I was talking with people in the Dominican Republic, in southern Mexico. I talked to somebody in Utah. I could hear somebody in Hawaii, but I could not talk to them. And that's just because of the antenna and such. But there's just, it's like anything else, different tools for different applications. HGA, one can talk 2 meter to the space station. Yep. I used to get tired of talking to California from Arkansas with 25 watts on 10 meter and a mag mount antenna, which is on your car. Yes, once you get into it. This is another reason why I recommend becoming ham certified, because you start to learn all these different things, and you can actually do a lot of neat stuff. There's actually some of the communications methods that you could use with a ham radio is you can literally send emails, the equivalency of emails across a ham radio. They've also got what's called wires, which is interface that allows a ham radio device to interface with the internet. And I used to sit in Missouri and jump on I cannot remember what the Echolink. Echolink is the computer-based version of this. I used to jump on Echolink in Missouri and get on these 2 meter repeaters in Britain and talk to people in Britain and Europe and all these other places. It's really cool stuff you can do, and with the proper gear and the proper training and proper skills, you can extend your communications out a long way. And again, in your community plan, we want as many people in the community to understand this and have the knowledge and skills to be able to do this. Let's see here. Lots and lots of rabbit holes. Absolutely. You can, if you get the highest certification, you can actually do television on your ham radio. It's not very good, but you can send televised pictures across the airwaves. Rabbit says he's got an old Siltronics 1011C model and a TYT 98 quad band mobile for his truck. Nice. Okay, the next one. Oh, look at that. We made it to the end. The conclusion. Implementing these points ensure that your community stays connected and can act swiftly during an SHTF scenario. So there you go. That's the basis of building a community emergency communications plan. I have put these up on Google Docs, and I will get a community post out with the links to this presentation so you can download it if you want, and you print it off and you can use this as a basis of creating your own plan. And again, I'm not an expert in this. This is something I whipped together for the community with the help of hacks, and it covered all the bases that we wanted to cover with the community. Your mileage may vary. Your situation is going to be completely different than ours, and so you're gonna want to modify it to fit you. All right. Now, there was a second part of this conversation whenever we had it with the community, and that was doing an inventory. Let me see what I called that. A family communications inventory is what it's called. I'm going to save that for the second part of this conversation about building a community communications plan. I don't know when that's going to be. We've got the thing this weekend. It may be next week. I actually, as a preview, I've actually talked to Spags and talked him into coming out of self-exile off of YouTube and doing a live with me and discussing what it takes to have a mag survive long term. Creating a mag is probably one of the easiest things to do in the prepper community. Getting a mag to stick together and be productive is probably one of the hardest things to do behind starting that initial conversation. So he agreed to come on. We just got to set a time and date. So we'll do that. But the next part of this series that I'm going to do on the based on the meetings that our community is having is we're going to go over doing a family communications inventory, which is going to touch a lot of the things that we talked about tonight. So I will let you know. I'll make sure I get it posted enough time so you can plan on being there. And gosh, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let's see. There's some questions here. If I were HG said, if I were Sam, an expert, my dad used to remind me that X has been and spent. Spent is a drip. Spurt is a drip. Yeah, that's true. Okay, for those new to it, SSB, single sideband, is what you'll hear on those boats referred to. Yeah, that's the frequency setup. Thank you, Dusty. Appreciate that. I enjoyed doing this for you guys. I know we kind of bombed through it. It was kind of like drinking out of a garden hose or a fire hose, but it's important. She says when he thinks of family communication plans for our parents, it includes hearing aid batteries for mom. Yeah, exactly. You know what? And there's a certain individual in our community that has here. Actually, there's several of them, and I'm going to bring that up next time we get together for when we talk about communications. Thank you, Brian. Okay. Any final questions before we go? Can be about the communications plan. Can be anything coming up. What we're doing this weekend. Yes, learn how to string a gorilla antenna. You know what? Hax and I were talking about it. We both got handmade J-poles, or homemade J-poles antennas, and we use those on a regular basis. And might be a good idea to do a class on that. Again, there are people out there that have stuff already. I just think it'd be fun to get Darren and I together and talk about that with you guys. You know what, HG? That unfortunately that is just for looks. I think if I hit somebody with that, it would snap into in a heartbeat. It does look pretty though. It does look pretty. Thanks, Grumpy. This is something I've been looking to get into, more educated and interested in getting my ham license. Yeah, do it. Get online. There's all kinds of stuff online. So the way for anybody that hasn't looked into it, the way you pass your test, they've got a pool of questions and it changes every 2 years, HG, or is it 3 years? But the pool of questions changes, and it's like 400 questions in the pool, and you randomly get a certain amount of questions from each one of the topic groups in this pool, and you have to answer it. And it's a pass-fail test, so you can get 100 on it, or you can get one above failing. You still got your license. The way I tell people to study for their ham test is go find one of these sites. People come out of the test, they do a brain dump, and they put the questions out there. And there's an app for your phone, and I cannot remember what it's called. It's been so long since I used it. But you take these tests. They've got online tests you can take. You can take it on your phone app. But take this test over and over and over again until you get 90 to 95% consistently on these tests. And what that tells you is that you have mastered, or you remember 90 to 95% of the answers that have been presented to you. All right. I think if I remember correctly, 79 is a fail. So you got to get 80% or above, right? So if you're learning 90 to 95%, that gives you a good cushion. And yes, you are learning by rote. You're going to get more after you get your ham license. You're going to get more learning by actually using the equipment rather than taking the test. All right. And all the test does is prove to the government that you understand radio theory and procedures and stuff like that, and the legal aspects of it. You're not truly going to learn and understand radio theory until you actually get out and start working with different antennas and building your own antennas and tuning radios and doing stuff like that. Yeah, hamstudy.org is one of them. I'm not sure that's the one I use though. Oh, 70% or above. Thanks, Charles. It's been a while since I took the test, and I don't have any plan on getting my the highest license. Good evening, all y'all. Hey, okay, Rabbit. I'm glad somebody's finally said this. I'm glad. Well, hang on. We'll go back to that. I'm gonna. I'll disagree a smidge. Memorizing the answers to questions only means you memorize the answers. Doesn't mean you learn anything. But I'm hard nosed on that. I'm not. I'm not saying that you learned it. That's why I'm saying after the fact. After the fact, that's where you're going to learn everything. That's 100% true. But the government knows at that point that you have an understanding of what you should. Let me rephrase that. You should have an understanding of what you need to learn. Okay. Rabbit says it gives .gov all your information too, but you have to decide how you want to proceed. Okay, so this is the big, and I know Rabbit's not saying this, but he's bringing this to point. This is the biggest thing that I hear preppers talk about why they're not going to get their ham radio license, because they don't want to give the information all that information to the government. Several things there. I guarantee you the government has all the information that you give for your ham license. They've already got that information. If you're going to be on a list, the only thing a ham radio license does is it puts you on a list of people that have ham radio licenses. And if the government comes around confiscating ham radios off that list, we've got bigger problems, and we probably should not be using ham radios to do that to begin with. And you get people that they start extrapolating, government starts coming after us, and they're gonna they can use it to attack ham radio operators. And here's my thing. Again, if the federal government decides they're going to start lobbing missiles at ham radio operators while they're transmitting, we have a bigger set of problems, and we should not be using ham radios to begin with. There are other alternatives that are available to people in that event. You'd be amazed at how easy it is to get a Singar's radio from a military unit. You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked, seriously. So you can say you don't want to give them the information. Guarantee you they've already got your information, and if you're going to be on a list, chances are you're already on it, and they've already got the information and know what they need to know about you. The only what getting your ham license does, as I said before, was it allows you to practice with the equipment legally and learn how to use it. So in the event of emergency, you can be effective and safe. All right. So with that said, you don't have to use a physical address any. Oh, really? When did that change? Yeah, you had to give them your physical address whenever. In fact, you can go online and if you know my call sign, you can find my address. But anybody that wants to do that's got so many other ways to do it. Let's see here. The older Motorola from Humvees, think they're from the mid 2000s. Yeah, you can get a PRC 77 online now. They you can buy those surplus too. Different class of licenses really give you more privileges on different bands depending on the band and mode. 15,000 watt is typically the max. Yep. Well, look at that. See, when I got my license, you couldn't use a PO box. That's interesting. You know what? I wonder if they changed that because of the COVID online stuff. I don't know. Grampy, when did they start to retest every team? You don't have to retest as long as you don't as long as you let the government know that you're still active. You don't have to retest. Yeah, renewal every 10 years. That reminds me, I need to go see. I don't think I've had mine 10 years yet. Rabbit says used to run a 100-watt power supply and a 1,000-watt linear. I'm not sure what mine is. I have to look at my radios. I'm not sure what I'm running. She used general delivery. That's interesting. Okay, guys, listen. We've been at this for a little over an hour. I appreciate you guys showing up. I hope this was informational. I hope this gave you a good base to start from. Go out into your community, talk to the people in your community, and start building a communications plan, because if something happens, you've got to be able to talk to each other for support and in emergencies and just for passing information. All right. If nobody has anything else, yeah, the answer is always it depends. If nobody has anything else, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I will see you guys probably. I don't know. We might try to do a live update from SOE this weekend. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So until then, you guys take care and go live a life done free.